We're breaking them down with NFL media historian Elliot Harrison. And usually we call you the analyst. You put on your historian's hat, though, to break down the top 10 Green Bay Packers in franchise history, which, by the way, is no easy task.
No, not with the Packers. They've been in the NFL now for, 1921. The Packers are the third oldest team in pro football history, or at least NFL history. There's so many great players. How do you do it all? But with Dynasty Week, we just had it, and the Packers were obviously a part of that. But people only think of the 60s Packers. Holy cow, there's so many better, or not better, but good teams in franchise history other than the Lombardi Packers.
Well, let's get in the Wayback Machine and check out the first player you have on this list. He played from 32 to 41 for Green Bay, Clark Hinkle.
Clark Hinkle.
Great football name, by the way.
Yeah, you got to love it. 1932 to 1941. We were just talking about him off camera.
And he can fly.
Remember the Packers championship teams in 36 and 39. This was Bronco Nagurski's main nemesis in the 1930s, and I wanted to give a nod to these old Packer teams that were just awesome back in the early part of the 20th century.
Some more guys in those decades on the list, but how about James Lofton at number 9 from 78 to 86?
Hey, James Lofton, love talking to him when I see him, particularly at the Hall of Fame. He's got a lot of great stories, and James Lofton was just an outstanding player. He was the best wide receiver in football when Jerry Rice came into the league. This was the number one guy. You could make an argument for Steve Largent. Either way, both are in the Hall of Fame, and James Lofton was the best all-around athlete at the position. He was a strong player despite his wiry frame. Obviously, he has the production as well, but James Lofton played a long time in the NFL, and don't forget his years with the Buffalo Bills on their Super Bowl teams.
Currently at number 8, Aaron Rodgers from 2005 to today, obviously. That position could climb as time continues, obviously.
Right. Aaron Rodgers, look, if he has another year like he did last year, it's going to be really hard to keep him at 8. But I'm trying to think of, okay, if he stepped away from the game right now, where would he be in Packers history? It's tough to put him any higher because the Packers have got such a storied past and have so many championship teams. That said, if there's one guy on this list that's too low, this is probably it. But right now, it's hard to step away from his career and totally evaluate it because we just feel like there's so much more on the table.
How about we go back to the 50s, Ray Nitschke from 1958 to 1972 at number 7.
Yeah, old-time Packer fans swear by Ray Nitschke. Some of them saying he was the greatest Packer. Ray Nitschke, at the time he retired, was considered the best middle linebacker, and since then, a little revisionist history has Dick Butkus from that era being the best middle linebacker. But Ray Nitschke, a member of 5 Packers title teams under Vince Lombardi, including the NFL's first 2 Super Bowl teams in Super Bowl I and Super Bowl II.
Staying in the 50s, Jim Taylor from 58 to 66 at number 6.
Jim Taylor, one of the true inside runners in pro football history. This was kind of the Jerome Bettis, Earl Campbell of his era. He would just run over people, but was very nimble as well. Jim Taylor, just a great player, and his single-season rushing record that he set in 1962 stood for over 40 years until Ahman Green finally broke it, with the benefit, I might add, of 16 games. But Jim Taylor, great player. And I just talked to Ahman Green the other day. He was here at the studios, and we talked about Jim Taylor and how he was honored to break his record.
Good stuff as we look at another great Packer, and Herb Adderley from 61 to 69 coming in at number 5 on the list.
Yeah, Herb Adderley right there, number 26, next to another Hall of Famer, Dave Robinson, number 89, who had to leave off this list, unfortunately. Herb Adderley was a fantastic corner, great athlete. Oh, you can see it right there. Meet the ball at its highest point. You know, they say guys in the 60s couldn't play today. I don't know, that looks like a play a guy'd be making today. How about that right there? That looks like a play.
Take some of the grain out of the footage and it's current day NFL films.
There you go. Herb Adderley, one of the all-time greats at the cornerback position.
From 92 to 07, Brett Favre, number 4.
Yeah, Brett Favre, you know, again, another tough one. Where do you put Brett Favre on the list? Some people would say he's the greatest Packer of all time. I don't get so married to the quarterback position where I think a quarterback has to be your best player of all time. But it is hard to put Brett Favre any lower than 4. He did win a Super Bowl for the Packers, and obviously 3-time MVP award winner. You could make the case that he should be number 3 or number 2.
Did his cameo in Something About Mary help him or hurt him on this list?
You know, I really thought that the kid that kept saying Frank and Beans should have been on this list.
Okay. We'll move on to Bart Starr from 56 to 1971. He's got the 3rd slot.
I'm saying it, man. I still think Bart Starr is this franchise's greatest quarterback. I mean, Bart Starr was 9-1 in the postseason. 9-1. Now, you could say, well, that's a team metric, and I would agree with you. But like in the 1966 title game where they beat the Dallas Cowboys, he had over 100 passer rating. Back in the day when getting over 100 passer rating was so difficult, he threw 4 touchdowns. It's funny, he's always known for handing off, but he could throw the deep ball, as you see right there. He was actually known for taking shots on 3rd and 1 when the defense was not expecting it. Bart Starr was clutch. He was a great team leader. He was great in the community. He's everything you wanted in a football player.
All right, good stuff from Bart Starr. How about at number 2, Forrest Gregg from 1956 to 1970?
Yeah, Forrest Gregg was called by Vince Lombardi the greatest player that he ever coached. I mean, that's enough for me.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's...
Your name's on the Lombardi Trophy, and you're saying, hey, this is the best player I ever coached. Forrest Gregg was the best player at his position on the best team in NFL history. Enough said. He's a member of the NFL's all-time team. He should be. Forrest Gregg, again, a great player, a quiet leader in the locker room, and everything you wanted in a pro.
A solid guy as well. We move on to number 1, your number 1 Packer on this list, Don Hutson. Again, going way back to the 30s, 35 to 45.
You can make the argument that in the first 50 years of pro football that Don Hutson was the greatest player. You get some argument about Otto Graham, you get some argument about Sammy Ball, both quarterbacks, but at the skill positions, there is no argument. This guy was so far ahead of the rest of the field when he retired in terms of receptions, yards. When I say far ahead of the field, I'm talking about this guy had 1.5 times the numbers of the second all-time leading receiver. I mean, Don Hutson was not only a Hall of Fame player, but truly probably a top 20 player all-time in league history. And so I went number 1 with him. And I also, again, this is a nod to their past. They won the title in 36. They won the title in 38. They played for the title in 38, 36, 38, 39, and 44. They played for the title every single year.
It's easy to think that the guys who played most recently were the best in franchise history. Cool seeing so many of the guys that were around for the beginning of this Packers legacy to make it onto this list. Elliot Harrison counting down the top 10 Green Bay Packers in franchise history. Meanwhile, you can check out the top 100 players of today as voted on by their fellow players. 5 new faces crack the list. See them tonight at 9 o'clock Eastern on NFL Network.